Welcome to DROD'S MMA and Boxing. This is my reaction to Canelo Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders.
I think he's definitely trying to figure it out. I think Billy Joe Saunders.
No, he's not. He's already got him figured out.
68-66 to Canelo. Yeah, great start.
Okay, makes sense.
Finished pretty strong. The last round, I didn't separate in the last round. 68-66.
A 10-10, right? Whoa! Oh! 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 Oh my goodness, that fight was something that we the fans definitely have been asking for, wanting to see for a long time. As I said in my previous video, I thought that this fight was going to be a little bit difficult, simply because Billy Joe Saunders is not an easy target to hit, as many people have found out. It's funny because I was watching the comment sections of many people's posts on Twitter and Instagram, and everybody thought that this was going to be a walk in the park, and it was not a walk in the park per se, but it was something. It was very intriguing. It was something very intriguing. As you guys noticed, I remember in the previous video, I said one thing that Billy Joe Saunders can't do is that he can't step in with that jab the way he did with Martin Murray. He can't take those 2 steps in. And I said that if he did that, he'll get countered. Now, he was smart because he didn't really step in. And he was very smart with that jab. Very methodical the way he would throw his jab. But what he did do in the first round was then he would try to come in with a lead right. And in that case, Canelo was able to easily counter and get to the body. It was a beautiful thing because the liver is on this side of the body. A southpaw's liver is here, which means in order to get to this side of the body, he has to come this way to the strong hand of the southpaw fighter. And the thing is, you want to pivot. An orthodox fighter really want to pivot to his left to get away from that power shot. So when Billy Joe Saunders in round 1 came in with that left, he didn't step in with the jab, but he stepped in with the left. He exposed his liver and Canelo got him. And he was hurting in the first 2 or 3 rounds of the fight because he was getting hit with body punches. Canelo would come to the side and hook the body. And then when Billy Joe Saunders would come and attack with the left hand, Canelo would slip it and give him an uppercut to the liver. And you could see that he was getting hurt because he didn't want to engage. He didn't want to throw any punch. He was on his back foot, which we already knew he would do. The problem is that Canelo was looking for a knockout. So he wasn't just satisfied with just coasting 12 rounds and winning the fight. He came out very aggressive, which is a tendency of Canelo. He likes to come out very aggressive. And as the fight began to play, then you see Canelo start setting traps for Billy Joe Saunders. He usually likes to sit on the ropes and allow people to throw as many shots as they possibly can so he can counter them. But what ended up happening was he has adapted his style to coming forward for many different reasons. Now he's coming forward, and he's kind of sort of doing a rope-a-dope tactic, but coming forward, opposed to sitting on the ropes and letting you come forward and pick shots, which most people are too smart to do now. He's coming forward, putting pressure, which is making you throw shots. While you're throwing shots, he's looking for an opportunity to counter. Why am I saying this? Because that's the way he sets up his knockouts. And by him continuing to set the pressure on and attacking Billy Joe Saunders wasn't able to open up. So Canelo had to stop punching in certain spots, and you see him in moments doing this. And he's baiting them. Go ahead, throw the punch. And you can see him winding up. Now, the commentators were saying, oh, he's loading up too much on his punches. And they were seeing that as a negative thing, and they were giving Billy Joe Saunders rounds, which I agree the fight was very close, But it was only close because Canelo was actually setting traps for him. It wasn't close because Canelo lost control of the fight. He never lost control of the fight. In fact, he was always coming forward. You know, there was one instance where he was on the back, and I was like, okay, maybe Canelo's going to allow him to do his thing. No, Canelo went back forward. He pushed him back. And I want to do a video on how Canelo's able to push people off of the ropes. He has the ability to come off the ropes whenever he feels like it. If he's on the ropes, and you can see he's like this, once he slipped that angle, or he comes in and he throws that uppercut, now guys start moving away because they're getting hit with something that they weren't expecting. Think about it. You're engaged and you're going for the kill, and somebody comes underneath you and lands a punch that you didn't see. It causes you to retreat. He causes fighters to retreat. He can get off of the ropes anytime he feels like it. And that's what makes him such a special fighter, because he can go forward and he can go backwards. And he never lost control of the fight, which is it's crazy, it's asinine, because these commentators were giving Billy Joe Saunders rounds, which it's interesting because one commentator actually gave the fight to Billy Joe Saunders. He had scored him 68 points, 68-65 for Billy Joe Saunders. Boxing is a very weird sport because we're trying to encourage fighters to go for the kill and be exciting. And when they start swinging punches, it's like we're judging and critiquing them as though we're judging and critiquing gymnastics or figure skating. Oh, I don't like their technique. I don't like the way he's throwing punches. And you can see a lot of times we're not judging him. Well, let's mark him down because he is missing punches. Guys, you cannot give people points for dodging punches. It doesn't work that way. Even though Billy Joe Saunders was still landing shots, they were not enough for me to give him a round. He was landing some pretty good shots, but Canelo was landing the harder and cleaner punches. And you could tell it on Billy Joe Saunders' face and his body. It wasn't something that he was really feeling comfortable with. It wasn't these were very hard shots that he was receiving. And there was times where, like, for example, Canelo got a little bit greedy and he would throw he would throw that uppercut to the body. And finally, I believe in the 5th or 6th round, Billy Joe Saunders was able to pick it off and land his own combination. And, okay, Canelo's like, okay, he got a little bit too comfortable in there and was comfortable with throwing these one shot to the body. But then, he composed himself and got himself back in there and took him out. Now, saying that, Canelo did something very interesting. He took away the jab. Billy Joe Saunders kept throwing jabs, but he was very hesitant and he wasn't really stepping in, because instead of coming over the top, as I stated, Canelo would let him come forward and he would go down. He would go down. And by him getting hit with the body, let me tell you something. It's basic science, my friend. Basic science is this. If I throw a ball, right? And I throw the ball as hard as I could, and that ball, let's say there's a trampoline, I throw it back, bam, that ball's gonna come back twice as hard. So if you're throwing a jab with everything you can, wow, right? Even though you're coming in with full power, guess what? You're also receiving the same amount of force that you're thrusting for is the same amount of force you're coming for. Think about what I'm saying here. You're throwing jab, pow, but everything in your body is going forward. So when you're going forward, guess what? When I counter with my right, you're receiving the same amount of force plus my force. And that's a hard shot, which is why many people don't want to throw a hard punch with Canelo. Sergey Kovalev said at the end of the fight, they said, well, why didn't you throw the punch? He said, well, I'm old, but he was hesitant. The reason why he didn't want to throw a punch was because the harder you throw the punch, is the harder the impact is going to be. So even though you come in, you're vulnerable, you take another right hand to the face, or a jab to the face, or a shot to the body. That's a really hard punch. It's a hard shot to take. And so guys are a little bit more hesitant, and you have to throw your feints to kind of sort of get that counter puncher. But it's hard when your counter puncher is actually moving forward. Canelo has a very difficult style, not because the typical counter puncher sits back and wait, and they're setting you up. They're letting you throw your shots. But what Canelo does is he's throwing shots, and in the midst of throwing his shots, he's wanting you to open up so that he can counter. So he's actually able to be offensive and be defensive at the same time. It's interesting because Billy Joe Saunders got very comfortable in there, and as he began to let his hands go, that's when you started to see, okay, he's getting confident. He's getting confidence, but he was actually getting set up. It reminded me with the Liam Smith fight, when the HBO commentators were applauding Liam Smith for what he was doing. He was doing a great job. He's putting Canelo on the ropes. He's tagging him. He's doing this. Meanwhile, guess what Canelo was doing? He was slipping, catching him off his glove, and he was doing little pepper shots here and there. And nobody saw that Canelo was setting him up. He was letting Liam take 5, 6, 7 rounds, the 5th to 6th, 7th round, and allowing him to become comfortable, because he came out very strong with that jab. And what happened was Liam Smith felt the speed and the power, and he knew that he was not on the same level of Canelo. And so he took that high guard, and now with that high guard, it becomes very difficult, which is how Canelo broke his hand trying to punch to that high guard. But now when he lets Liam Smith think that he's on the same caliber, the same level, Liam Smith is able to open up. Now look at all this shots. Look at all this. He's opening up. Everything is open. He's just letting his hands go. And Canelo was able to get his knockout by Liam Smith opening up. He's a power puncher, but his punching, his knockout power really comes off of the counters. Because as I explained to you just now how the science works, that as long as I'm standing here, I have a better chance of absorbing the blow. But now if I hit you with everything I have, and you counter that, then I'm going to go out. This is the problem with a lot of MMA fighters. They come in there, they're swinging, and in the midst of swinging, bam, they get knocked out. Because it's basic science. You're going to have to disguise those punches a little bit better than that. So the Liam Smith fight and the Billy Joe Saunders fight are kind of sort of the same thing, except for Canelo wasn't on the ropes. He was coming forward, and Billy Joe Saunders was looking really good. Like I said, he's adapting. He's able to adapt his style. He adapted very well in this fight. He made some adjustments, and he was very smart. But Canelo was setting traps the entire time. He was setting traps throughout the entire fight. And in the first 2 or 3 rounds, everybody in the auditorium, even Billy Joe Saunders, knew who the best fighter was. So Canelo had to allow him to think that they were on the same level so that he could be more comfortable opening up. And he did something. Instead of him coming forward with that jab, he reached in the beginning of round 8. He reached with the hook. Bam! He reached. And when he did that reach, Canelo was waiting for him. See, the entire fight, Canelo was doing these counter uppercuts. It's a very weird uppercut. It's not normal. It's kind of sort of like, it's like Roy Jones' lead hook. Everyone talks about how Roy Jones doesn't know boxing. He does a lot of unconventional stuff. And I tell people all the time, it's not that he doesn't know boxing. He knows it. But he knows his distance and his time, and he's able to apply the science to what he knows, what he's taking measure of. So Roy Jones' lead hook was very unconventional. His lead right, you know, something that's no one has been able to be able to do. Not even Floyd Mayweather himself. He has beautiful left hooks. He has beautiful lead hooks and lead rights. But Roy Jones was just on a whole nother level. Muhammad Ali, his pullback was a pattern pullback. Nobody's been able to pull back the way Muhammad Ali has been able to pull back. You know, Canelo's counter uppercut is the same thing. That counter uppercut that he landed on James Kirkland, when James Kirkland's coming in and he hit him with the uppercut. Let me explain to you how difficult this punch is. I'm coming forward, and anything that's moving in a straight line is going to reach its target faster, quicker than anything going under or around. And Canelo's able to time you coming in. He's on the ropes. And think about it. You're coming in with a straight punch. You're putting your whole power into that. You don't know. I mean, it's such a difficult. You have to know where that person is going to stop at. You have to know exactly, calculate the speed, the timing. It's a very difficult punch to counter with an uppercut. And he's able to pull back and drop an uppercut and drop guys coming in. He landed it on Triple G. And then he's able to land that uppercut and then slip it. Very, very, very technical stuff here. And the whole fight, he is, it's very interesting because what he was trying to do was come underneath a southpaw's jab. Even though a southpaw's left hand is coming directly at him, he's still confident in this uppercut. It's wow. It's unconventional. And he was going for it all night. And he was just too short. It was short because it's not a punch that you normally throw. It's a difficult punch to land. So Billy Joe Saunders did this in the 8th round. He went low. I don't know if he reached with the hook or if he jabbed to the body. But Canelo took note of that. And he waited. And he waited. Letting him think that he was right on the same level. And as soon as he came in with that lead hook and head over his toes off balance, Canelo was able to come underneath and fractured his orbital bone in multiple places off of that counter. Why? Because he can't. It was perfectly timed. The amount of force projected forward. For every action, there's a reaction. The amount of force projected forward, accompanied by Canelo's uppercuts, broke his orbital bone. Very, very crazy fight. It was a very good fight. Hats off. Canelo said in the interview that it wasn't as hard as a fight as he expected. He trained very hard for a very difficult fighter. I would admit it was a very good fight, but I thought Billy Joe would try to use his angles, but he ended up trying to stand, and it could be because Canelo went so early to the body that Billy Joe Saunders, even though he looked good with his legs, he wasn't going to do much moving around, just because of those body punches came. He started very early. He invested early. He invested and he was confident and he trusted his body punching, and that made a big difference. That's it. Great fight. Like I said, one day when I figure out how to work this YouTube thing, I'm gonna get back to doing my videos and breaking things down for you guys, because that's what I love to do. This is DROD'S MMA and Boxing. If you love the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, share this video, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.